What's up, guys, and welcome back to another Market Watch Wednesday here on the InkCast. We watch the markets so you don't have to, so you know what's going up, what's going down, and what those best sellers are. All right, so looking at the cards that are going up, we have a few cards that are making a little bit of a splash, but the other thing to remember is set 5 is still figuring out, what's good, what's bad. So we're going to see what happens in the markets there. And of course, we need the next DLC using the set 5 cards before we really can see these prices start to stabilize. So just keep that in mind with set 5, but we are seeing a few of the older cards start to move around. All right, so kicking off the movers, the ones that are going up, we have Merlin Rabbit. Now, Merlin Rabbit has been a staple since he was released, and at this point, he is $3. We've seen this card, be used in any type of deck that uses purple, and essentially, if you're an Amethyst, you're using this in Madam Mim, and right now, he's up 10% for the week. So that's 30 cents, 31 cents for the week, putting him at $3. Again, this is one of those cards where I really don't think it's ever going to lose value. And at this point, this is probably where he's going to stay around $3 to $4, somewhere around in there. He could go up over time if we get further away from the printing. But the fact that he keeps getting printed, he's in the Quest product as well. Yeah, I kind of see him staying around this price for a while. So the next one on the list is a little surprising. It's Fairy Godmother. I say it's surprising because this card has kind of come in and out of the meta a lot, and it is a pretty good card. I think a lot of people are experimenting with this card right now. You're having to figure out how do you have aggressive decks when you have the aggro decks, but then have something that can help you long-term in the deck. So I think right now this card's being experimented with. It's at $3.63, and that is about a 3% weekly change. So it's only up 11 cents. Not huge, but it is continuing to go up. So it's something to kind of keep your eye on. I don't think it's going to be, where it was months ago. But it is one of those cheaper legendaries. And if somebody were to break out with a deck with it or something like that, there is a chance it could continue to go up because it's legendary. Moving from that over to Grab Your Swords. Now, Grab Your Swords is a great card. It's being used in so many decks right now because of the aggro presence that's there. If you're not running Ruby, you got to be running Steel for some removal, which is why we're seeing it kind of continue to stick around and be really good. This card is $3.79. It is a rare, so keep that in mind. Because it's a rare, it does kind of have a high-end cap on this, probably $5 being the highest it'll probably ever really go. I do think at some point we'll get a better spell than this or a better song than this. So there is a chance that over time it could come back down. That is, though, an 11% increase for the week. So it has added almost 50 cents to the price. So if you don't have them, they're great cards. I would recommend picking some up at some point if you don't have them, because at this time it's just continuing to go up. Again, getting further away from that first set is definitely going to continue to push this price up over time if it's being used in these sets in the meta and things like that, which until we get a better removal spell for Steel, that's a damage to everything. It will be the go-to choice in those decks. And speaking of removal, we have Along Kamezus. This is one of those cards we've talked about for a long time, that this is just a staple removal card. It can do damage to locations. It can do damage to characters. It's a song, so you can sing it. 4-drops are pretty common in most all of the decks, so it's really easy to sing. And this card is just going up. It is $4.69. That is a 13% increase for the week. And again, I do think that this is a $5 card all day long. This is going to be one of those cards that sticks around, and with Steel always being a great secondary color for any deck, will make this card, great and valuable. It's rare, so that's why I think it's a $5 card. It's going to stay around a $5 card. And even if we get other removal spells and things like that in Steel, this is still going to be a pretty good go-to, whether it's a 2 of, 3 of, or 4 of in a deck. It will stick around for a long time. So if you don't have these, I would recommend kind of looking at getting them. They're going to continue to go up. And, you know, again, the lowest price you're probably going to see this card is maybe $350, and that'll be a while from now. It really has to come out of the meta to be able to do that. So right now, it's probably where it is and where it'll be for a while. Next up is the bird, and the bird is back. Yes, Diablo has, you know, seen a drop off in play over the last few weeks with, you know, Bucky being nerfed and people kind of shifting off of that deck. But now that we're back in set 5, Diablo is a very good card. Yes, everybody is looking at Clarabelle, which I'm sure we're going to talk about in a little bit, but Diablo is still a great card, and you can see that he's starting to come back. He is $31.58, so he has crossed back over that $30 mark, and he is trending up. So for the week, he's up 6%. Even for the day, he's already up 1%. So again, this is one of those cards that's probably going to stay around a $30 card. It could go up to a $35 card. I'm not sure if it's going to be back to a $40 card like we see with Beast and Robin Hood, but this is one of those cards that's going to be, you know, a great card to use. Yes, he dies to removal. You could say that to any card, but if you can get him out on 3, tap him on 4, and start drawing those cards, he's already giving you value, even without the shift on 2 and the fancy stuff you can do with him. So he's a great card. He will continue to be that $30 card and going up. So we'll check in next week to see if he's continuing to go up or if he's going to level off around this price. Like I said, we will speak about the cow, the card that I definitely called wrong, and it's continuing to go up. So it is $37.66. That is a 20% increase for the week, and the card's good. Guys, I played the Sapphire Emerald deck, and it's really good. There's other builds using Clarabelle, and I don't think, again, this card is like the best card in the game, but I do think that this is a very great card in the game. When you're doing things where you're emptying your hand and being able to throw her down and draw 3 cards, draw 4 cards, that is pretty huge, and that's what she does. So this card, yeah, I don't really see it going down anytime soon, because of so many people playing Emerald. This is a $30 card pretty easily, and as you can see, it's getting closer to a $40 card like we see with Beast and some of the other staples that we got in the other sets. And speaking of those cards like Beast and Robin Hood is ticking up again. He is $43, so he's over that $40 mark again, and that is a almost 4% gain for the week. Now, I think Robin Hood is also getting a little upside here because there's a lot of people experimenting with Emerald Steel Robin Hood. We played this earlier in the week on stream, and I'm going to have another video coming out with a breakdown of the deck, and it's pretty fun. Is it tier 1 competitive? The version I was running, definitely not, but it is one of those decks where I could see it having potential to be really good and actually steal some wins. He's a great card, and I don't really see him going away anytime soon. Next up on the going ups is Ariel Spectacular Singer. So this card is just such a good card. It's a set 1 card, so they're getting harder to find, and yeah, it's Steel Song. Steel Song has been a great deck for a long time, so if you haven't already picked up Ariel's, yeah, she's just going to continue to go up. Steel Song is making its resurgence with set 5. This card is currently $6.50, and that is a 20% increase for the week. So as you can see, people are picking these up. They're playing Steel Song, and until we see something really push Steel Song out of the meta, this is going to be a great card. And yeah, you should probably pick them up if you haven't at some point. Sure, if you're not playing Steel Song, you can try to wait to see if maybe in the next few weeks, Steel Song doesn't make a top 8, and then all of a sudden these come down a little bit. But realistically, this card's always been over $4 or $5. So yeah, you should just keep your eye on it if you don't have them. If you're thinking about picking them up, if you're thinking about playing Steel Song, I would recommend going in and getting them, because if Steel Song does top a top 8, this card has a potential to go even higher, maybe even close to $10 if it becomes a staple deck in the meta. All right, now going from one Amber meta deck to another Amber meta deck, we have Blue von Bruenwald. Yeah, this card is essential in your aggro decks, and it is continuing to go up because of that. Now, this isn't the super pricey card, but it is $1.44, and that is a 12% increase over the last 7 days. I put this card on the list specifically just to point out that aggro is still where a lot of people are focusing and a lot of people are looking. So just be aware, it is going to be in the meta around you. And if you're planning on playing it, yeah, this card has gone up a lot. And if it stays in the meta, it will continue to be, around this price, or maybe $2 being the top end for the card. And then the last going up card I want to look at is Beast Wolfsbane, not Relentless, Wolfsbane. So Wolfsbane is a pretty good card. It's going to tap down any damaged creatures. And like we were saying with Robin Hood earlier, this is one of those cards that does pretty well. So with a lot of people experimenting with this Robin Hood damage to all your characters and things like that, people are wanting to play Beast to tap down the characters to be able to remove them, or, Beast Relentless, which didn't make the going up cards. But this card is currently $2.30, and that is a 20% increase for the last 7 days. So again, it has made a pretty big jump. It's still a pretty cheap card, but if that Robin Hood deck takes off, there's a chance that this card could gain a little bit more value. Now, it's not a 4 of in the decks, but it is probably a 2 of in a lot of the decks. So just keep in mind, because of that, its price is not going to be crazy, but it does have some room to go up a little bit if that deck makes the meta. Now, personally, after playing the deck, again, I think you're looking at like a tier 2 deck, so don't worry too much about it. But it is something to point out. If you're wanting to play that Robin Hood deck, it may be good to pick up 1 or 2 of these before, they potentially go up even more. All right, so I'm interrupting this just real quick to tell you about our giveaway. Yep, it's one of these bad boys. It's the D23 collection. If you guys haven't seen it, they were limited in where you could purchase them, whether it was the parks or one of the Disney stores out there. Yes, we got ours over at Disney Springs, and I believe they're sold out at this point. So we're going to be giving this thing away, and it's super easy to get it. All you have to do is go down below, make sure you're subbed, and leave a comment on a video. It's super easy. Every video that you comment on is an entry for this, whether it's an older video or a newer video. I've got the timestamps now. We'll be pulling all new comments, and each one of those is going to get you an entry to win this thing. So on September 6th, so you got about 2 weeks to do that, we're going to be pulling a name, and somebody is going to be getting this shipped out to them. So I'll return you to your video right now. All right, so now we're looking at the cards that are going down, and the first one is Chicha. Yeah, Chicha is one of those cards that on paper looks amazing. Every time you get to ink a second card, you get to draw a card. And yeah, it's just not working out the way we thought it would work out. And essentially you can see this giant fall of the card. Now the card is $2.08, but that is a 59% decrease over the last 7 days. So this card has lost a lot of value, and it's gonna probably continue to lose value for a little bit longer. This card is very good, but with Tipo and other cards that are gonna ramp you quicker, it's just been hard to find a spot to put the card in. The deck already draws a lot when it comes to Hiram and the item package. So unless Hiram does get a change, I know we had the weird app issue with Hiram, but if something happens there, maybe Chicha actually becomes playable. But I think at this point, the blue decks already have so much draw, whether you're playing Steel to get more Fortispheres and things like that, or Emerald to use Clarabelle. I just don't think this card is going to have a great place in the meta moving forward in set 5. The next up is Donald Duck Pie Slinger. And this card, it's just one I kind of wanted to put on the list because it is $3.73. It has lost 27% of value over the last 7 days. So it is going down. But I think this is a card just to keep an eye on. It is a legendary, so it's a very cheap legendary. And if somebody were to find it being helpful in any kind of red deck, ruby deck, in the future, it could go up. So it's probably still going to drop a little bit lower if I had to guess, maybe down to $3. So keep your eye on it. It may be a good pickup at some point just because it's, so cheap as a legendary. But at this point, nobody's really found a deck with him. So he's continuing to fall each day with the settling of set 5. So continuing to look at that set 5 settling in, we have Prince Naveen. Now, Prince Naveen is $24.50, and he has lost almost 30% over the last 7 days. He's continuing to go down because at this point, he really hasn't found a good spot in Steel Song. I've been seeing him as maybe a 2 of in some of those decks, but the value that we saw with him when he was spoiled just really isn't happening when you're actually playing the cards. Having that song in hand, having the song you want in hand, just kind of like the old Mulan where you would flip over the top 4 cards and you could play a song for free. It just doesn't really do exactly what you want it to do. And this is the reason why he's kind of continuing to go down. Now, he's still a great card. And I do think at some point somebody will find a great deck with him. But at this point, currently right now, yeah, he's just going to go down a little bit further. Now, I think that this card's probably a $20 card. He could go below that if we really don't use him at all. But I think he's probably more of a $20 card once he finally stabilizes. Unless, again, something crazy happens at the next big DLC where we will be seeing set 5 cards. And Mufasa is also in that exact same spot. So Mufasa, Ruler of the Pride, it is $22.58 and it is down 21%. Yeah, this is one of the most hyped cards, and we've seen this before with super hyped cards that just don't quite pay off. This card is amazing. If he gets on the field and he does his thing, he's just so good, but he is one of those cards where you're probably not a 4 of in a deck. You're a 2 of, you're maybe a 3 of on the high end. And right now he's just fighting for a spot. There's so many good high end cards, whether that's Ariel, Tamatoa, or any of your closers like Belle, making her rise back into a lot of these decks. It's really hard to justify the cost, the non-inkability of a Mufasa inside the deck. Now, he is still being used in a few decks as a 2 of, sometimes a 3 of, but mostly a 2 of. And this is the reason why this card is around that $22 mark. And just like Naveen, I would put it around that $20 mark. Now, I hope that at some point we see a breakout with Mufasa. And like I said, if he can get on the board and stick on the board, he is really hard to remove. It's just the fact that he's not a 4 of, and that is really because he's not inkable, that we're seeing him at such a low price. So the last legendary of set 5 I want to look at is Merlin, Intellectual Visionary. He's really the same way that we've seen these other cards. On paper, looks amazing. Shift them out, go find any crazy card in your deck and put it into your hand. And I think that could be good if you didn't have to shift them. But because you have to shift them, it really hurts his viability, which is exactly what we saw with Bucky no longer really being used because of that. And so because of that, he's lost 18%, but he is still, $8.80. I really feel like this is a card that's probably like a $6 card, just a decent card, but not exactly what you want when you're playing. He's made it in Blurple as a 2 of or something like that, but yeah, I just see him continuing to go down over time until we maybe have some more better Merlin shift targets. Like, you don't want to lose your goat or rabbit at this point. So you're shifting them on a crab, and yeah, those are not being played as much as they were before. And the last going down card that I'm going to look at is Daisy Duck. So Daisy Duck, Donald's Date. It's such a great card. It's being used in a bunch of decks. It's a 4 of index, so it should go up, but it isn't because it's not legendary. So this card is $15.39. It is down 19% for the last 7 days. And again, this is just because the card was overpriced. Now, we talked about this in the first couple weeks of the set. This card was over $20. It was pretty crazy at what the price tag was. And because it's a super rare, yeah, this card is anywhere from $10 to $15. So it's $15 right now. It's probably going to stay $15 for a little while. We'll see what the meta shakes out. And if, the aggro decks go away, she could come down a little bit, but she is showing up in Steel Song. So I really have, this card at a $10 being kind of the lowest point of the card. It could go below that if just the market gets flooded with these cards. But at this point, I think it's currently at the top end of where it's going to be. And over the next few weeks, we may see it come down just a little bit more as more cards get opened and it gets, sold more and more as people get prepping for all these different events that are upcoming. All right. And looking at best sellers to wrap everything up, you can see it's the same cards that we saw last week. Nothing's really changed too much. Daisy Duck, we just talked about kind of going down. She's still a top seller. So again, I think a lot of people are picking this card up in play sets. So 4-ofs to make sure that they have it for Steel Song or Amber Amethyst Aggro, which again, we have Elsa on this list, and even Madame Mim Elephant kind of poking around. Yeah, set 5, it's going to be a top seller for the next couple weeks because people are trying to complete play sets. They're trying to make sure they have the cards they need, and it being the newest set, it's just going to dominate what we're seeing in the top 10 cards. Now, there are some other good cards that you can see in here. We've got Mother Gothel. Again, a card that's making a rise because of the Emerald decks that are coming out, specifically the Emerald Sapphire decks that we're seeing. We've got Bonsai coming out. If you guys haven't seen the Emerald Amethyst deck that I know Earlmeister's running, and a few of the top Pixelborn people currently, they're running that particular color combo. So we're definitely seeing a lot of those cards show up in this list. The Library, another great card being ran in a lot of the purple decks, whether it's the a tempo deck or the aggro deck. So a lot of great cards in this list for the top selling cards. If you haven't already picked them up, I definitely would at least put eyes on them. But again, a lot of these cards, if they are not rare or better, they're probably going to go down pretty heavily over the next few days or few weeks. Anything that's rare to super rare, probably still going to come down a little bit. I think right now, set 5, a lot of stuff at this point is priced either where it's going to be or higher than it's going to be. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's a few sleepers out there that we've kind of talked about and looked at, but for the most part, I think everything is starting to just kind of come down or starting to settle in if you haven't already picked up your cards. So just keep that in mind. These are our top sellers, a lot of great cards in there. So definitely, if you haven't got them, you may want to pick them up. Everybody else is. So yeah, we'll check in next week to see if these top sellers move at all. But yeah, it makes perfect sense of the top 10 that we're seeing right now with set 5 just being released. And again, just hitting the stores this past Friday, the big box stores and places like that. So that is the Market Watch Wednesday this week. Let me know down below, guys, what cards should be on this list. What cards are you eyeing out? Are you on the Robinhood deck? Are you interested in the Robinhood deck? Again, I'm going to edit that video from the stream. You can definitely check it out over in the long stream videos. Yes, it was a long stream, but I'm going to edit that down into a video, hopefully coming out tomorrow, so you can check that out if you want to. But just keep in mind, I don't think my list is optimized, but it was a lot of fun and it did get us some wins. And if you haven't already done it, man, hit the sub button, leave a comment so you can get your, chance to win that awesome D23 set that we talked about earlier. It's an awesome set. You know you want it. So all you got to do, leave that comment down below. And until next time, I'll take it easy.